were never invented. Instead, humanity went straight to nuclear weapons.
Oh yeah,
that every firearm
sorry, I didn't intro it, my bad. Guys, we're watching Fallout 4, but every gun fires nukes. By Reggie. I don't remember if I watched Reggie already, but like, yep, for real.
I want to introduce you to a world where bullets were never invented. Instead, humanity went straight to nuclear weapons, meaning that every firearm, from a homemade pistol to a minigun, is capable of unleashing Armageddon upon your enemies. In this world, there are only 3 rules. 1, you shoot first, or you don't shoot at all. 2, you should always have a backup plan in case you run out of ammo. And the most important of all is that water gun fights are now strictly off limits. In a post-apocalyptic setting such as this, there's only one thing left to do. Slavery. If you've ever watched a soot-encrusted Indonesian man mining sulfur for 7 cents a day and thought to yourself, damn, he's ripping us all off, then I have news for you, because we are the same person. All of that is to say, I'm a big fan of capitalism, and when it comes to maximizing shareholder value, nowhere does it better than Nuka-World. Some people will call this a defunct amusement park taken over by erotic cosplayers.
Wait,
really,
also,
it's just a different kind of amusement.
Wait, Nuka-World is Fallout 4? Or did it came from Fallout New Vegas and then it got transferred? I mean, to Fallout. Yeah. I feel like the only references that I would probably get from Fallout is the. I'm sorry, guys. You might actually hate me for this, but the Fallout videos that I've watched before on YouTube as well, that I've reacted before on YouTube, and the Fallout series, the live adaptation of that hot girl. I don't even remember her name. What the hell?
Now, because we have hundreds of people forced into slave labor using explosive collars. From the moment I saw this 8 years ago, I knew it was my destiny to be the CEO of this wonderful business. So that's our goal. Utilize weapons of mass destruction to take over Nuka-World and usher in an era of mega slavery. Can we succeed, or will we be stopped by literally anyone with a gun? There's only one way to tell. But first, I have to watch my wife get shot. That part plays out a little differently in this timeline. So my wife and son were vaporized in a thermonuclear blast. Unfortunate, but from their ashes a hero was born. We escape the vault and enter into a world whose color scheme could best be described as 50 shades of vomit. From here, we could go straight to Nuka-World, but we're level 1, and we have about as many items as a paranoid schizophrenic who thinks the government is spying on him through his microwave. So instead, we'll spend a few hours gathering supplies and trying to reach level 15, at which point we should be ready. I saunter my way into what I assume is modern-day Los Angeles, at which point a Cockney robot attempts to socialize with me, but that's exactly what they expect me to do. So instead, I jump on top of my neighbor's roof and dive headfirst into a pool of radioactive sewage. That ought to throw them off. Our first goal is to find a gun, because the power spike from punching things to nuking things is pretty substantial. After wandering around, I find a dead body with a revolver on it, and upon testing it out on some nearby wildlife, I was both excited and terrified at the world I had created. I made my way into a nearby town, where usually a small group of bandits is fighting with some Minutemen. But now, a small group of bandits is committing a nuclear holocaust with some Minutemen. And if you think this is bad, you should have seen it before we reduced the explosion effects. Anyway, I tried silently assassinating the raiders. This was met with very limited success. Eventually, I got tired of role-playing as a high-altitude weather balloon, so I nuked the bandits and entered the museum to help the Minutemen. Or rather, I tried to enter the museum, because as dangerous as nuclear warfare is outside, it's 10 times worse inside. And I got spawn killed for about 20 minutes before I finally made it past the front door. But by that point, I had been ground zero for roughly 35 nuclear detonations. My ears were ringing, my retinas were fried, and there was a very distinct possibility of me vomiting all over my keyboard. But my noble goal gave me the strength to continue. From here, I went room by room, clearing out the raiders in close quarters combat. This is a fantastic way to learn the exact blast radius of a nuclear bomb, because if you're off by even an inch, your limbs will eject from your body like rocket-propelled grenades. Eventually,
bro, I feel like that would be me
Garvey, who wasted no time complaining about how hard his life is. Just wait until he hears about my plans for Nuka-World. Preston had me climb up to the roof and equip this suit of power armor. I was feeling very confident until a drug-fueled maniac popped out from around a corner and gave me both barrels of his shotgun, a phrase which has recently intensified in meaning since each pellet is now its own nuke. Honestly, I had a lot of difficulty at this section, because the minigun takes half a second to spin up, and if a raider happens to squeeze out even a single shot in that time, it's all over. But if I've learned anything from watching a homeless man avoid arrest by drinking his vodka out of an antifreeze bottle, it's that necessity breeds innovation. Come to think of it, that might have actually just been antifreeze. Regardless, I pioneered a new combat strategy, that is, the mortar technique. Instead of shooting at my enemies, I just kind of carpet bombed the entire town with poorly aimed artillery. And it worked really well. From here, I jumped off the roof and did my best to crush Preston like an ant.
When
that failed, I settled for finishing off the raiders and laughing at the Deathclaw's attempt to intimidate me. Following this, I went inside, Preston thanked me, and Mama Murphy gave me the perfect setup for a joke.
We're all gonna die eventually.
Yep. After reloading, we all went to Sanctuary and started drinking from the same toilet bowl, because we are now friends. In fact, Sturgis asked me if I could build everyone some beds so they didn't have to sleep underneath bridges and inside of burnt-out cars. I looked him straight in the eye and said I would do that. Of course, I was lying. In fact, I immediately left Sanctuary and never contacted any of these strange people again in my entire life. At this point, we're level 3, and I've got a decent selection of guns, but I'd still like to gain access to some better perks before taking on Nuka-World. So I began doing odd jobs around the Wasteland. First mission, a filthy woman wants me to go to this place and kill all of these people. No problem. I travel to the Corvega factory and start using my mortar technique to soften up their defenses. It takes only 9 seconds for me to accidentally nuke myself. That's a personal best. Eventually, I make my way inside and begin atomizing the inhabitants while the building vibrates violently with each shot. Luckily, the other raiders convinced themselves it was just the wind. Now, you might think the best weapon for room clearing would be a shotgun, but you'd be wrong, and I found this out the hard way, because the spread on a shotgun means it's almost impossible to aim it straight, and despite your best efforts, you will hit either the floor or the ceiling, and the resulting blast will almost certainly turn you into a human jigsaw puzzle. This happened to me more times than I'd like to admit. Before I begrudgingly filed the double-barrel shotgun next to Reggie Fan Meetup in the category of things that sound fun but will probably get me killed. I also tried hacking into this cute little security robot so he could help me clear out the bandits. He lasted all of 3 seconds before they murdered him in cold blood. This was the single biggest mistake the raiders could have made, because his existence was the only thing stopping me from doing this.
Okay. Killing time up.
Yes, indeed, the bandits were dead. Completing this quest got us to level 6 and allowed me to unlock the Mysterious Stranger perk, which is now substantially more satisfying because yes, he does shoot nuclear bombs. This was good, but we still have a long way to go, so I continued on my quest to convert every living being into experience points. It went a little like this. I start the day with some train yard hobos. First you shoot them, then you beat them. 8 experience each. Also, tried my hand at cattle wrangling. I think I'm a natural. A shipyard? Break into a shipyard. It's full of murder crabs.
Damn.
No, it's not. Apparently, the owner was trying to domesticate them by playing soothing messages on the PA. It didn't work. That was a lot of effort. Let's go ahead and take a rest for the night in this old building. Never mind, the universe hates us and we've just been ambushed in our sleep by attack dogs. Plunged the world into nuclear winter in retaliation. After that, I went to Bunker Hill, where I spent 20 minutes marveling at the ugliest human being I have ever seen. Which is strong words coming from someone who looks in the mirror every morning. Once I was done, I went to the Drumlin Diner to try to negotiate peace between some raiders and the store owner. When I told the lady I wouldn't be taking her side, she presented me with a very compelling argument. Oh my god, what the fuck? But 2 can play at that game.
Of course, that's the only solution to every
Say
problem,
what you want,
bro.
but this is the fastest method of de-escalation. Following this, we got a quest to kill everyone inside this preschool. Don't worry, the kids are already dead. We're just killing the raiders. I nuked every room with extreme prejudice, but still died anyway because the whole place is booby-trapped and tripwire guns now fire atomic bombs. But it's okay, because we can always retreat to the public bathroom to brew more health potions. Eventually, I find their leader and introduce him to the concept of a glory hole before stuffing his
Sims
charred
music,
corpse into
though.
a garbage bin. Finally, I finish by releasing all of his captives, except for you. Someone has to stay behind to tell the people about my good deeds. After all that, we're now level 10, and I've even figured out how to craft bear traps, which I have successfully stress tested on a small child. Works like a charm. Let's finish up a few more quests and then go straight to Nuka-World. I was in Bunker Hill admiring the absolute girth of this man's biceps when I was approached by Edward Deegan. He took me to Cabot House to accept a quest from John Cabot, who wants us to steal some secret serum from a psychotic gentleman living in a shack on top of a hill, which is fine. However, John bears a striking resemblance to the Zodiac Killer, and so I wasn't sure if I could trust him. That's why I covertly stole and hid exactly one of his pool balls. If he betrays me, he'll never get this back, and the loss of a singular ball in an otherwise perfect set will almost certainly drive him to a suicidal rage. This is what we call establishing collateral. Anyway, I went to the insane guy's shack to get the serum, but an acorn fell on the ground and it spooked me, so I spent the next 55 seconds nuking the man's house until I stopped getting hit markers.
Damn.
I grabbed the vial,
You know
went
what?
back
I
to
would
Cabot,
play
lied to him and
for
said the
this,
serum was gone
like
before
that.
taking it out of my inventory, waving it in front of his face, and injecting it into my neck just for fun. For good measure, I also smashed a bunch of his research equipment and stole this fancy camera. Only one more quest to go, then we're off to Nuka-World. It's time to go help Paladin dance.
I'm over here stroking my dick. I got lotion on my...
I rushed to his
What the hell?
distress signal as fast as I could, but upon arriving, it seemed like he had things under control.
Hi.
I talked to Dance, and he asked me to accompany him on a mission to salvage technology from some nearby ruins. This quest was awful, but I do have a few tips. First of all, you're going to come across a gang of bandits robbing some traders. This is an interesting interaction that I recommend observing from a distance. Second, if you hear any variation of the phrase, "We've got company," you need to run for cover, because there is a 90% chance Paladin Dance is about to pivot like LeBron James and nuke the shit out of you for being within 20 feet of a bloatfly.
We've got company.
If and when you do finally make it to the destination, the synths inside are very dangerous, so I recommend a tactical approach, such as watching through a sheet of plexiglass as Paladin Dance does all the hard work. Also, when you get to the basement, don't forget to accidentally melt off Dance's face with this rocket exhaust. Trust me, he actually likes it. After that, you just go upstairs, grab the tech, and it's all over. It's not a great quest, but it does give us the junk jet, which is some kind of pneumatic catapult for weaponizing random garbage. While it doesn't fire atomic bombs, it does allow me to kill my opponents by cracking them in the forehead with dirty cigarette trays, which is something that resonates with me deeply. Finally, we're now level 16 with maxed out luck, a few helpful perks, and a new rifle that has a 50-round drum mag along with a bayonet for close quarters combat. But before we go any further, I need to warn you about something, because the fine people at Makeship have infiltrated my apartment, stolen my genetic material, and created hundreds of clones of me that are conveniently the correct size and shape to fit inside of a mason jar. But you wouldn't do that to me, right?
Is he
Anyway, for a limited time,
teardrop?
we're going to be selling
No,
these
acid
Reggie
drop?
plushies, and I highly recommend picking one up. But Reggie,
drop?
what can I use this for? Well, I like to use mine as my own personal hostage. You see, he's relatively small, which makes him very easy to overpower. Sometimes I also like to wave a big knife in front of his face. It fills me with a sense of control that I've long since lost in my life. Also, he has no legs with which to run, no mouth with which to scream, only eyes with which he may observe me perform my elaborate war dances as I prepare to take his life. But if that's not exactly your style, he also makes a pretty good stress ball. So you've got 30 days to take me hostage. Do you think you have what it takes? If so, click the pinned link in the comments and put yourself down for as much of me as you think you can handle. Then prepare yourself. Now back to the video. I arrived at the Nuka-World Transit Center with determination, because from here we can take a tram to the amusement park. The only thing stopping us is a small army of bandits, robots, and rooftop snipers. I must have died about 15 times at this part before I settled on just firing 30 nukes into the sky and hiding in a parking garage while all of my enemies were turned to ash. I made my way down to the tram, where this guy was telling me raiders had taken his family hostage at Nuka-World. Apparently he escaped but was shot in the process, but the fact he didn't have a single drop of blood anywhere on his body led me to believe this man was a liar. So I politely excused myself, loaded up my junk jet with steel ingots, and then came back and pulverized his heart with a
Damn.
high-velocity metal slug. Now his story about being wounded is a lot more believable. After this, I jumped on the train and it took me to the promised land. I arrived and it was beautiful. A voice came over the speaker and told me two things. One, I'm trapped, and two, the only way to escape is to survive the gauntlet. I surveyed my surroundings and found the dead bodies of several half-eaten male prostitutes. So I'm going to go ahead and say my chances aren't great, but let's give it a shot. Room 1. A large lobby full of rusted junk. If the tetanus doesn't kill you, the machine gun turrets firing nukes definitely will. Also, the ceilings are very low, which makes it easy for you to blow yourself up. So I recommend using bats. Even if your chance to hit is low, it doesn't really matter, because atomic bombs are more of a to whom it may concern type weapon anyway. After that, it's on to room 2. This room was supposed to be armed with several booby traps. However, the nuclear detonation we unleashed on the last room seems to have spilled over and disabled most of them. The key word being most. After reassembling my body parts, I moved to room 3, which presented us with 3 doors to choose from. Door 2 was a room full of human heads, which appear to have been decapitated in the middle of nutting, while door 3 contained a bouquet of live grenades. I'm flattered. Escaping through door 1 led us to a radiation room which was giving me 60 rads per second. In order to avoid developing stage 4 League of Legends, I took a near lethal dose of radiation medication and ran around in a fugue state until I found the keys to escape. Next was a maze full of bizarre traps and animatronic aliens. Fairly simple, just don't underestimate the overgrown rats, because they will not hesitate to put you down. After this was a tunnel full of landmines. Sprint through it at top speed and across this definitely up-to-code wooden bridge. Uh-oh, it collapsed, and you're now being attacked by shellfish. Assert terrestrial dominance before proceeding to the hardest room of all, the gas chamber. It's here where we get locked into a room which is quickly filling with phosphine gas. If we don't get through this door in the next 30 seconds, we'll be dead. So here's the plan. Take a bunch of drugs to numb the pain of your lungs being dissolved. Stab all these bugs while making sure to fill your pockets with their succulent meat for later. And then hop on this computer and open the escape door. That leads us to a shed full of flying ants, which are surprisingly difficult to hit with a nuke. The torture of this room is a little more abstract, but it's very real nonetheless. Then quickly run through this cage area while people shoot at you from above. Just kidding, you can't do this quickly and you're going to die at least a dozen times. But after that, we're finally at the last stage of the gauntlet. See that guy down there in the power armor covered in blood? Yeah, we're going to fight him and he's invincible. But we have a secret weapon. It's not a high-powered rifle or even a rocket launcher. Instead, our secret weapon is a plastic water gun. The plan, in theory, is that our enemy is receiving power to his suit from this exposed electrical line. And if we can cover him in water, well, that probably wouldn't be very good. Alright, let's give it a shot. They counted us down and opened the gates, at which point I charged headfirst into my opponent. He responded by blowing off all of my limbs with a nuclear bomb. Clearly, we need a different approach. The guy is actually invincible, but I found out that I can stay in the starting area and snipe him with the water gun to disable his armor. Then I followed up with like 20 nukes to finish him off. Following this, a lot of exposition happens, but I'm going to summarize it really quickly. That guy we just electrocuted, yeah, he was the CEO of Nuka-World, and the raiders that live here seem to put a lot of respect on violently murdering your political opponents. So they now recognize me as their leader. This is fantastic, and it comes with a lot of perks. For example, I now live at the peak of Fizztop Mountain with a lovely view over all of my employees.
Employees or
now one of my elite employees.
Also, since I'm the boss, I can go to the market, steal things right out of the display case, and then sell them back to the shop owner for free money. The downside is that Nuka-World is divided into 6 parks, with only one of them being under our control. So it's our job to liberate the remaining parks directly into my authoritarian governance. Then, once we have them, we can distribute them to the different raider factions according to which of their political philosophies I find the most amusing. So it's time to go meet the gangs. Operating out of Fizztop Mountain is the Disciples, which is a faction that couldn't be any edgier even if they were actively pulverizing the elderly in a hydraulic press. This is strangely juxtaposed against the fact that they don't know how many belts you can wear before people stop taking you seriously. Overall, they're my second favorite. The second faction is the operators. Their primary concern is making money at the cost of human life, which is my personal favorite philosophy. However, they have some shared mental disorder, which precludes them from wearing clothes that actually fit. I don't know exactly why, but this makes me extraordinarily angry, and I regularly have to restrain myself from killing them. Fortunately, I found a good compromise. Instead of creating a civil war by nuking their entire faction, I just swing by every few days, find a random operator, and secretly deposit a live grenade in his pocket. Lastly, there's the pack. They have a relatively experimental aesthetic, along with a nice selection of chairs. But whenever you want to talk to their leader, you're going to be forced to listen to the bite.mp3 sound effect for hours on end, because they installed a dogfight pit in the middle of their base. This immediately and irrevocably disqualifies them from receiving any further attention from me whatsoever. With introductions out of the way, it's time to start expanding our operation and making some big money. There's 5 parks to acquire: Galactic World, Dry Rock Gulch, Safari Adventure, the Nuka-Cola bottling plant, and Kiddie Kingdom. First up is Galactic World. This is a space-themed park inhabited by hundreds of robots. However, someone spilled their Dr. Pepper on the AI mainframe, and it caused the robots to become violent murder machines. It's not great for business, so I went there and started fighting my way through the streets. The first thing I noticed was that there's plenty of laser turrets all over the premises. Luckily, they don't seem to work very well, and usually spend their entire time in a life-or-death battle against the ceiling. However, don't get too comfortable, because on at least one occasion, the air pressure from these explosions caused my cranium to detonate forcefully. Other than that, just keep an eye out for Mr. Frothy, who is very fast and will startle you into jumping off a bridge and subsequently dying in a nuclear explosion. Anyway, I made my way to the control room, where I'm able to turn off the robots. Only problem? It's broken, and it needs a total of 20 star cores to repair it. Unfortunately, they're scattered all over the park in the safekeeping of several automatons that would like to crush my neck like a can of soda. But much like a restraining order, I viewed this as a challenge rather than a problem. Do you really think I can't get within 100 feet of you? So I began wandering around looking for these cores, which led me to a building called the Robco Battle Zone. My hopes of this name being metaphorical were quickly dashed when upon entering I died about 37 different times. Part of the issue is that the mini nuke mod isn't working perfectly on the robots, and some of them are shooting me with laser beams. While my supple body is perfectly optimized for dying in nuclear explosions, it does very little to protect me against this space-age technology. But just like how the lifeguards at the YMCA can't stop me from drinking the pool water, these robots couldn't stop me from blasting my way into the battle zone, at which point I was promptly locked inside and forced to fight a variety of enemies which entered from these doors and these hydraulic platforms. The robots were tough, but the primary difficulty in this cramped space was finding a place to detonate a nuke that wouldn't instantly vaporize me. First, we had to survive some protectrons and a swarm of iBots. No problem. Then it was on to the Novatrons, even easier. Then our final opponent was the Space Sentry.
Hey, who's that, Alexander? Just joking. Hey. I wonder how many tries did he did that.
Yeah, he got the better of me. But as the saying goes, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, I'll obliterate you with nuclear weapons. And we did just that. With the battle zone conquered, I gathered all the space cores and moved on to the next building, the Interstellar Theater. Surely a fucking theater can't be as dangerous as the battle zone, I thought to myself. But boy, was I wrong. Very, very, very wrong. The entire auditorium was full of robots, and honestly, I was only able to conquer this area through the repeated use of a strategy I like to call kill one guy and then save the game. While searching for the star cores, I found a Nuka-Cola mixing station, which allowed me to combine a Nuka-Cola beer with another Nuka-Cola beer to create double beer. Some people will claim that AI and vaccines are the greatest advancements of the past century, but to that I ask, can you get drunk on polio vaccines? I didn't think so. That's why double beer is the real scientific pinnacle of our generation. After completing my schizophrenic monologue about alcohol, I found the star cores next to a few decomposing junkies in the washroom. room. Very nice. The last building wasn't as bad. Vault Tech Among the Stars is a recreation vault life experience, outfitted with realistic living rooms, indoor gardens, and even an entire room dedicated to giving you cancer. I'm feeling nostalgic already. Strangely, as my character progressed through this area, he was getting recurring headaches. I chalked it up to a brain tumor and thought nothing of it. But it turns out the whole vault was actually just one giant experiment in subliminal messaging. According to this observation log, they're broadcasting a high frequency over the PA that's meant to induce degenerate behavior such as pissing your pants. Joke's on them, they just wasted millions of dollars to make me do something that I was already going to do anyway. Following this, I slaughtered a bunch of automatons, found a really nice shotgun, immediately flashed back to all of those times I killed myself with a shotgun, and then quickly unequipped it before finding the remaining star cores and rushing back to the mainframe. With the help of computer scientist extraordinaire and definitely not dead person Kendall Alston, I was able to repair the computer and pacify all of the AI, meaning we can now walk around the park without having to worry about a medical robot electrifying our testicles. With the robots subjugated, I went upstairs and raised a flag to officiate the conquest of Galactic World. Our empire is expanding, and the next theater of war is the Wild West. Dry Rock Gulch is an arid wasteland inhabited primarily by dead bodies, which should make it an easy target. So I made my way there and quickly realized where all the dead bodies came from, because within moments of arriving, I was attacked by subterranean bloodworms. Yeah, these little bastards tunnel around underground and then ambush you when you least expect it, which means they're either underground, so you can't kill them, or they're firmly latched onto your jugular vein in such a way that makes using a nuclear bomb seem a little too risky. In this case, I recommend treating the entire area as a high-stakes game of the floor is lava. Eventually, I came down to chat with the sheriff, who informed me that he'll give us the park if we can get rid of the bandits coming out of this building. One problem, the building is locked, and I need combination codes from the Giddy Up Kid, One-Eyed Ike, and Phosphorus Pete to gain entry. I really wish he told me this before I carpet bombed the entire park, because I'm pretty sure I killed all of those people. This was an irritating development, but my anger quickly faded after the sheriff appointed me as his deputy and gave me this excellent cowboy outfit. Upon reloading the save, I found the Giddy Up Kid, who explained that some cattle rustlers had stolen his loyal steed, and he wants me to bring it back. In case you're wondering, he's talking about an inanimate object, but it was like 4 AM at this point in the recording, so I just played along with it.
Rustle up some horses for you, huh, cowboy? I'll be back before sundown.
I searched the grounds for all of 13 seconds before finding the torso of a Giddy Up Buttercup stuffed inside this man's anal cavity. I grabbed it and dropped its dismembered body inside the horse pen. Our friend was mildly dismayed.
What happened to Giddy Up Buttercup? They butchered her up like a cow.
But he still gave us his part of the combination code, so I don't really care. Next, I sauntered into a saloon where I met Phosphorus Pete. He wants us to deliver some Nuka-Cola to the residents of Dry Rock Gulch. No problem.
The people of Dry Rock Gulch.
And before you ask, yes, all of the people we delivered soda to were in fact dead bodies, which I made sure to tell Pete.
I'm afraid everyone's dead.
Well, that ain't good.
Doesn't matter though, the quest is done, and Pete rewarded us with his code, along with a large quantity of alcoholic Nuka-Cola, which I quickly became addicted to. From here, I sought out One-Eyed Ike to complete our final test, which, much to my dismay, would be a duel at 10 paces. Ike gave me a 44 Magnum and started counting down, but unfortunately, I was still stun-locked by the idea that an amusement park mascot was programmed to hand out loaded revolvers to children before shooting them, which resulted in Ike getting the better of me. Second attempt at the duel, I won, but I won a little too hard, and Ike wasn't alive to give me his code. Third time's the charm. For this, I decided to swap to the junk jet, and after blasting Ike in the head with a steel ingot and an empty beer bottle, he conceded defeat and gave me the final piece of code. Now we can enter this mine shaft, destroy the Bloodworm Queen, and claim Dry Rock Gulch. Honestly, this part was pretty easy. There's really only 2 things you need to do. 1, make sure you break into the office so you can equip this cool duster and pretend you're playing an actually good Fallout game. And this last thing should go without saying, but do not jump in the pit full of dead cows, because they'll erupt with dozens of bloodworms and it makes for a very stressful experience. Other than that, I just nuked everything inside and completed the quest. Not too bad.
Not too
After
shabby.
raising the flag, we're all done at Dry Rock Gulch and on to the next target, Safari
Whoa.
Adventure. I approached the park and observed a man doing battle with a large creature.
It's
I chased
Jurassic
it off by
Park,
shooting it with 3 nukes, all of which it survived. This was not a good sign. Anyway, the guy started talking to me, and from a
Bro, he
distance
looks
I had
like
assumed
that.
he was some kind of male stripper, meant to appeal to the female fantasy of being bludgeoned to death with
He
a
looks like
sledgehammer.
that
But
one,
actually, he's just a caveman who was raised by gorillas, which is marginally more believable. His
Justice
name is
League
Cito, and he
character,
used his caveman
I don't know,
dialect to
actually.
explain that Safari Adventure is overrun with gator claws that are being
Gator!
cloned in a big triangle house, and I need to disable the cloning machine to claim the park. I briefly
Damn.
considered putting a revolver in my mouth as a preferable alternative, but after I heard him using 150% of his brain power to forcibly enunciate the word facility, I felt bad and accepted the quest.
Facility.
So I set out searching for a key to the triangle house, and thankfully the gators weren't much of a problem. I mean, they didn't have any nukes, which was a pretty big deal right off the bat.
Yeah,
However,
I'm
they are
probably a
very
melee
tanky,
player
so just use literally
and all
any
of
gun
that.
that goes full auto, and you should be absolutely fine. In fact, if you want to make it especially simple, you can just go to the top of this treehouse and firebomb the
Hey.
entire map. Honestly, I think the hardest battle I had here was against my alcoholism that I had acquired in Dry Rock Gulch. Eventually, I found the key, let myself into the cloning facility, and started clearing it out. I felt kind of guilty for slaughtering all these dumb animals with nuclear weapons, so I thought
Why,
I'd try
though?
fist fighting one of them just to get my anger levels back up again. It
There's
worked
a
like
fist
charm.
fighting, or is
Anyway,
this
I
modded
blasted
as
some
well?
gators, hacked into this computer, and turned off the cloning device. I told Cito the good news, and he was so excited that he gifted me a rocket-propelled aluminum
Aquaman.
bat that presumably he has engineered himself. Not really clear on that. What I am clear on is that the park now belongs to us. On that note, let's go to the 4th park, the Nuka-Cola bottling plant. An industrial complex which, judging by the automated turrets and unmarked minefields, was probably run by Jeff Bezos. There's also a little section called the World of Refreshments, which I spent some time exploring. And by exploring, I mean I was pulverizing crustaceans to death with a baseball bat. Back outside, I was feeling a little guilty about the power disparity between myself and the crabs, so I decided to handicap myself by asserting my vertebrate dominance with nothing but a flare gun. This was a massive mistake, because out of the lake
Still
emerged the Queen Mirelurk, and she's pretty tough. A direct hit with the nuke does about 10% damage, and sometimes she likes to spit acid on me and melt off all of my skin. And as if that wasn't bad enough, she has a whole harem of Mirelurk kings to chase me down and pound the shit out of me while I'm reloading. However, I navigated this problem by applying my universal solution, which was to take a lot of drugs and run really fast. This helped create some distance,
why
which
is he
allowed me to
naked?
pick off the ads before circling back and slow
I
motion
just
nuking the
realized.
Queen Mirelurk to an early retirement. I cannot
What in the
imagine how embarrassing it must be to have your entire colony destroyed by this dickhead, but luckily she won't have to worry about that, because she's dead and the bottling plant is now ours. On to the next target. This is it, the final park, Kiddie Kingdom. As a professional
Kiddie
YouTuber who owns a
Kingdom.
copy of Minecraft, this could be the most dangerous park of them all. Previously a children's theme park with several rides and a castle, it has now been renovated into an industrial gas chamber, with radioactive fumes being pumped into the area at regular intervals. Also, it's inhabited by hundreds of feral ghouls, which are relatively easy to kill. However, they close
Zombies.
distance very quickly, and melee combat has become substantially more hazardous, thanks to the mysterious stranger who sometimes shows up and nukes the shit out of me. The only upside is that I have this cryogenic shoulder pad, which sometimes freezes my enemies solid, at which point I
Damn.
can take my time knocking off all of their limbs with a baseball bat. Anyway, our goal here is to defeat Oswald the Outrageous and seize control of the park. He's hiding somewhere, and I decided to start my search in the funhouse. Upon entering, we had to navigate a labyrinth of mirrors, which was fairly easy because none of the mirrors were reflective. Instead, they appeared to be coated in several layers of dried ejaculant.
What in the
However, while I was marveling at the artisanal craftsmanship of the mirrors, I failed to notice the several landmines scattered about the floor.
Uh-oh.
After limping my way through the maze, I spot Oswald in this control room. I attempt to get
Oh.
closer, and he throws a grenade at me. What a dick. From here, I engage in what was either high-level platforming or low-level astronaut training before entering the hallway of hypnosis. I won't lie, this part was actually mildly disorienting. In fact, at one point, I had to use a dead guy just to confirm I wasn't actually hallucinating. I fumbled my way through this section and into a spinning room with about 2 dozen doors all around it. One door led to that thing that happens when you open OBS. Another presented us with the illusion of a happy family. And of course, there was the classic room full of flamethrowers. Positively delightful. By the time I found the correct door, Oswald had already escaped. So I moved on to search for him in King Cola's castle. Never mind. It turns out the park has more traps than I thought, not the least of which are the amusement rides themselves. In fact, I have personally witnessed several park employees being killed, maimed, or otherwise dismembered by the rides here, and it's only been like 20 minutes. Of course, I had to try this for myself with the roller coaster carts, and I realized that it's a lot like boxing. When you expect to get hit, it doesn't do that much damage, but it's the punch you don't see coming that will decimate you. After this, I strolled around the park a bit more, killing ghouls and rummaging through garbage bins, until I wandered my way into some employee tunnels. I sprinted through the tunnels like a wild animal, at which point I found Oswald talking to one of his staff members in his office. Naturally, I wanted to return the grenade he had thrown at me earlier. This did not work, and I felt like an idiot, so I just kind of took that one on the chin. But it wasn't all bad, because after Oswald disappeared in a puff of smoke, I went into the office and found my next stylistic evolution. Oh yeah, this is gonna work just fine. Alright, well that does it. There's only one place left for Oswald to be hiding, the theater. I broke in with all the grace of a homeless drug addict and started talking with Oswald. He was trying to convince me that he has magical abilities, and he said he was going to show me one of his greatest tricks. Then he punched me in the head and ran away. Truly a master of the mystical arts. I followed him up to the roof, where he gave me some shitty story about being a sympathetic villain, but at this point I was so tired of chasing him around the park and getting hit by roller coasters that I opted for immediate violence. In response, Oswald unleashed his most powerful magic trick of all, crashing my game.
Of course.
3 minutes later, we were back, and the fight was on. Oswald was much higher level than me, and he had a grand time cutting off my limbs with his fancy sword. However, I managed to counter this by simply jumping over a railing, at which point he could no longer stab me. His method of coping with this was to bathe me in Molotov cocktails, but they don't hurt that much, and I've got enough drugs to stay up here for weeks. I am aware that this tactic borders on cheating, so I'm prepared to negotiate. Instead of staying up here and nuking Oswald into oblivion, I will instead empty out the entire contents of my junk section into the junk jet and kill Oswald with the physical manifestations of my hoarding disorder. This included everything from light bulbs to rolls of duct tape, but the primary ingredient was 156 stacks of pre-war money, which I spent the next 20 minutes bouncing off Oswald's head. This
what is he doing rotating just like that?
Not especially effective, because Oswald seems to legitimately be invincible. I shot him with 200 junk items. He barely noticed. Ran him into 6 fragmentation mines. He walked it off. And even when I got desperate enough to nuke him, he would just reset his health bar. This kind of freaked me out, so I panicked and shot him like 50 times. At which point, I realized he wasn't damage immune, just damage resistant. And now, he's dead. I stole his clothing in order to complete my Charlie and the Chocolate Factory cosplay, and quickly raised the flag on Kiddie Kingdom, indicating our complete conquest over Nuka-World. All that's left to do is to go to the power station and press the big red button to finally power up the park. And just like that, we are the CEO of the world's finest slavery-themed amusement park, which gives us quite a few benefits. For example, all of the rides are now operational. And I can't confirm this, but it is my personal headcanon that we're receiving our electricity from a small armada of slaves running on hamster wheels. Also, we can even gather up a gang of raiders and go out into the Commonwealth to recruit more employees through what I like to call competitive hiring practices. So now that we've achieved our primary goal, what's left for us? Well, according to mustache enthusiast Christopher Vogler, the final stage of the hero's journey is to return home as a changed man. In our case, that would be Sanctuary, and as a matter of fact, I am a changed man, because whatever final thread of sanity had previously prevented me from killing all of these people has finally been severed.
Carpet boy. Boogash. Bro. Of course.
Well, it's finally over. We've conquered a world where the only projectile ever invented was nuclear bombs. I want to thank this month's patrons for supporting the channel. Don't forget to check out Makeshift to purchase and abuse my likeness. And finally, thank you for watching.
I'm amazed his PC is still living at that, you know? Holy shit. Bro, he kind of reminds me. He actually reminds me of a mix of Seth and Martin Zero Pants, probably.
The year is 2077.
Oh my lord. Do you guys think?
I want to introduce you.
Do you guys think he's giving Martin Zero Pants because of the suit and the acid? What do you call that? What the hell? The acid head, acid teardrop head. The way we wipe the slate clean. And then the humor gives, the humor can give a little bit of Seth, actually. Go Veo! That's funny as fuck. Although, I don't know if, brother, if I actually modded it to have every bullet to become a nuke, I would have not progressed at all. Because whenever, I'm the type of person who, like, can flashbang myself, though. I'm not gonna lie. Reggie's one of Seth's alter egos, bro. Bro, why does he have so many at this point? It's a bit ambiguous, amphibian. But they're all Seth. Are we sure? He does actually. He does feel like he's Seth or something. I'm not gonna lie. El Buyo. Mandalore's alter ego. I like how, you know, Seth mentions like Mandalore, and like Mandalore also mentions Seth on like their videos. Bro, the brothership. The brotherhood is strong in this one. Noble man who loves slavery. You can't say that on this period of time though, but you know what? Props to him. Props to him, bro.